I think AI will enable us to make more stuff more cheaply.
Now that we're on the topic of talking about everything that will offend anyone who wears a cardigan, I'm sure. Let's just keep going, John, right? Let's talk about Donald Trump, right? One of the things that I noticed with the media about 6 to 9 months ago in particular, and especially in the financial space, was just drawing this automatic conclusion that anything that he was behind would ultimately lead to death and destruction, and your wealth will be gone. Your view in general, do you kind of feel like there is a shift that's going on in the world which is beyond the political leaders of our day, or do you kind of feel like it's just a one-off with this particular person in charge?
First of all, I don't know if you saw the number this morning, but they just revised GDP in the US up. So the US is actually doing better than people had expected. So, and remember, Trump brought in tariffs back in 1819, and at the time,
1819.
Well, I think it was around then. Yeah, 2018, 2019. Is that when?
I was going to say, he wasn't alive in 1819. What are you talking about, John?
Sorry. And at that time, the commentators said that, the world was going to come to an end and there were trade wars and all the rest of it. And, actually Biden came along, took over, and he didn't reverse any of those tariffs that Trump brought in. He carried on with it. I don't know who's right or wrong. The problem with Trump is that it's his communication style, right? He comes across like a complete and utter nutter, and that's just the way he is. What he is doing, though, which I think is more important than the way he's doing it, is that he's the only US president for a long time that I've actually seen stand up for the United States, right? I think he genuinely wants the US to do better. I think he genuinely wants blue-collar workers assembling auto parts to have a job. Is tariffs the right way to do it? I don't know, but I think he's realized that they have to do something, because just continually relying on China to make everything that they need is not a good strategy. Yeah. COVID surely was a wake-up call for everyone that, you can't just have everything made in one or two countries. The risk is too great. So I do think there's method to his madness.
Yeah. It feels like, again, UK, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand in particular, Five Eyes countries where it feels like in a lot of ways we're falling off a cliff in terms of quality of everything.
Yes, I agree.
We have an outlier here in the US. Yes, it's a president that everyone loves to hate. However, he is one leader who's standing up and saying, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore, to quote Twisted Sister, right, from the 80s. We're not going to take it. We're going to actually make this place better. And we're not going to tax internally so much. We're going to tax externally. We're going to use tariffs. Kind of like what you were talking about before with duties to buy properties in other countries. Don't restrict them, but just collect tax from them. That, to me, kind of feels like if we're going to have political leaders, we need to have the guts to actually put people that we might not like in charge if they're doing the right thing.
I agree completely. New Zealand for New Zealanders. Things like this Paris Accord. Look, and don't get me wrong, I want to protect New Zealand. Our marine reserves, our national parks, our fresh water. But we don't need to spend billions of dollars in Europe in order to keep New Zealand clean and green. I think there's too much greenwashing. There's too much of these meetings, everyone flying around in jets and going to meetings and spending all this money and coming up with all these agreements and, oh, look at what we have done, why are we putting solar panels on farmland? In New Zealand. Planting trees on farms that were producing beef and sheep, and there were good local communities. There were just enough kids keeping the school running, and you have to shut everything down because we're growing trees to save the planet to meet our Paris climate accords. I think it's nonsense. I think the whole lot of it is rubbish, and we should review a lot of our international agreements because we're getting screwed. Right? As simple as that. Why is it that an Australian gets treated like a local buying a house here and I buy there and I'm a foreigner? I'm not talking about people who move there, okay. But it's just, this is only one issue that I've come across because I've dealt with it directly. How many other agreements are completely one-sided? How many other agreements have we got politicians who have known nothing about negotiation and are just being sent off overseas. I think we just get pushed around. And we have such an amazing country. We have so many resources. We've just got everything that we need. We make food for 40 million people. We should be all wealthy, right? We've got everything. We've got gas, we've got coal, we've got solar, we've got geothermal, we've got wind, we've got fish, we've just got everything we need, and we completely mismanage it. It's just a shambles. It really is. And I try and be positive, and I am a positive person. You can't be a property developer if you're not positive and a little bit mad. But I do wonder what we just waste so much. We just waste so much money on stupid stuff like the Paris Climate Accord. What is the point of it?
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's bring it, with that in mind, let's bring it back down to the household. AI, artificial intelligence, it appears to be having a significant impact to a lot of businesses in terms of we as business owners can now make stuff a lot easier just by using technology. A lot of our politicians through the tax levers, a lot of our central bankers through the monetary policy levers, they will try to destroy demand so that they can manage things. And now we have a tool that can help give us assists or give small businesses an assist to build something out of nothing. Surely that's got to have a massive impact in terms of inflation, cause deflation. What are your general views on technology-induced deflation?
So simple supply and demand. I can now do the work of a team of 3 media people, and so I can create more news content with less, so the price should be lower. Right? So I think AI will enable us to make more stuff more cheaply. So from an inflation perspective, I think it's deflationary. And what did phones do? What did computers do? What did the steam engine do? They all enabled more stuff at a lower cost base. I agree completely that AI is going to drive down the cost of a whole lot of things. Yes, jobs will be lost, people will be displaced, but again, the steam engine, the printing press, the weaving machines, all this technology, people lost their jobs and then they found their jobs somewhere else. New jobs got created. So I don't see it all as doom and gloom. I think there will be some people who won't find another job. So I'm not saying, there's no risk there, but it also has there's a chance that AI will really help us solve some serious problems. It's just going to be so much smarter than the average human that it'll be able to work its way through all kinds of problems. I mean, I use it all the time now. I talk to it, I ask it questions, I've loaded up all my stuff, all my articles, my videos, all of my documents, anything I've written, everything is in my AI. So it's like talking to a coach, right? One-on-one, it knows my business, it knows what's going on, knows what my concerns are, and it helps me. And then if I want to do something new, and I want to say, hey, I want to start creating some AI automation apps maybe for property developers, right? How would I go about doing that? How do I pick a process that I'd like to automate and something that I could package and sell? Well, it'll show me how to do it. We'll work our way through it. I mean, the potential is massive, but I think for people who are worried about it, the best thing to do is to actually spend time with it. Actually learn about it. Be the person that can fix the AI. I remember when my very first job, and we went from the salaries calculations went from cards to computer, and I was so interested in computers. I'd already had a computer and done a little bit of basic coding, and you had your tape deck you plugged in, and you saved things beep 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 beep.
Commodore 64.
And so I wanted to learn all about it. So I wasn't afraid about the change at all. I became someone that people asked, hey, how do you do this? And can you help me with that? I think that's really where you want to get to. I think communication skills are going to be super important. Soft skills, EQ, how to get on with people, how to listen, how to ask questions. Yeah. AI, it's going to be a long time before it can really communicate those with another human being in the same way, I think.
And from a macro, more monetary policy point of view, a lot of people are concerned about inflation coming back to life, especially if there's an increase in global liquidity, if central banks start to create more out of nothing indirectly, of course. Like if that starts to pick up again for all sorts of reasons, are we going to see inflation? And I kind of look at AI as, well, maybe that is one of the things that could offset it by creating more supply so that the increase in demand from more purchasing power, more dollars out there in existence kind of creates a bit of balance. So yeah, like maybe in the next 1 to 3 years, we might see a bit of a golden age, is my suspicion as well, whereby we get the best of both worlds because the AI creates enough deflation to soak up all of the mess that governments create when they're doing their thing. But then eventually, I just wonder where it goes. All right, so with this last question, I want to bring it in for a landing. Precious metals like gold, silver in particular, we've seen amazing performance, especially like in the last 48 hours, new all-time highs for gold, and silver looks like it's a coiled spring ready to go. I love that sort of space. I also love digital gold, specifically Bitcoin, and I know it's really hard to find other people that kind of can see both sides of the equation here. Have you made up yet with Bitcoin, or are you still kind of on the fence with it?
I think it has a place. Okay. I mean, from a number of different angles. One is that, like many, I have a complete distrust for the government, and they will just keep printing money to fund their harebrained schemes, to fund their wars, to fund all the things that if we were asked to vote, if they came to you and said, hey, we'll tax you another $10,000 each this year so that we can go and fight somewhere, well, no one would say yes, right? But with fiat currency, they can just do it. And then they just steal that money off us later through inflation. Yeah, so right. Bitcoin protects us against that, as does property and gold and art and, collectible cars and all that kind of thing. But it does it in a more, more sophisticated manner, I guess. I think there's a place for Bitcoin, but I think it's a percentage of your portfolio. Maybe it's 1 or 2 or 3%. Like I would be comfortable with gold at 5, maybe Bitcoin. I'd even go as far as that. But what does worry me is when I see sperukas online trying to get people to trade Bitcoin, for example. Oh, you can make all this money trading it. Really? Or put all your money into it. I mean, you shouldn't put all your money into anything. Right? You need some kind of diversification. So I guess a long-winded way of saying I'm now comfortable with having Bitcoin as a part of my portfolio.
I'll take it. Let's lock it in. We can work with that, John. I think it's cool. But I think it's an interesting place for me to leave it with you as well, because I kind of think that what we started with in terms of talking about New Zealand as a safe haven country, potentially for a lot of high net worth individuals to migrate to. And then we talked about government grabbies, right? Like government's getting really grabby with the amount of tax.
Really grabby.
Yeah, from those that probably can afford it the least as well. And then we talked a little bit about the geopolitical piece and the U.S. in particular, and a bit of mindset stuff in here. So it's quite interesting to leave on this, because I think if I was to pick one statement that I hear time and time again when I listen to those, particularly in the Bitcoin community, but also a little bit in the gold space as well, is that if we do return to a sound money standard of some sort, whether it's a Bitcoin standard or a gold standard, then it immediately disarms the government's ability. It neuters the government to a certain extent, which sounds almost violent to even suggest it, but it's a completely non-violent way to restore power in the hands of everyday people. So what do you think about this statement? Can we fix the money? And if we fix the money, can we fix the world?
I think it sounds great. I think it sounds great, because we need to do something. And if we just carry on the way that we're going, I don't see a positive future for the Western world. So
that's good.
Bitcoin or gold, maybe a combination of both.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. Not financial advice. Well, it isn't. It doesn't need to be, because it's just forms of money. It's savings advice. That's awesome.
Okay.
Just might save your bacon, in my view. That's awesome. Now, Joan, where can people find more of what you put out there?